Good day, viewers. Pwalpar here. The other day on my Railfan remake about 27W, they had to stop and check the sticking brakes on a train. I got a comment from one of my viewers. Joe Railfan wrote and questioned it, and I thought it would make a good topic of conversation for a story or a little bit of a vlog. So that's what I'm talking about today. And here's what Joe had to say. Walter, it sounds like a problem with the brakes on a particular car is fairly simple to fix once you've walked the train and discovered which car it is. But what happens if it's a mechanical problem like a hot bearing, pull drawbar, or dragging equipment? When I was a kid exploring my hometown railroads, I would often see a long freight car sitting on a siding not near any industry, presumably a bad order car set out by a road freight. Can railroads still do that with these 2-mile-long monster freight trains that they run these days? I always enjoy your reminiscing about your working days. I'm glad to see Contrary Mary's keeping an eye on you. Well, you bet your boots they can set a car out. And they often do. It is a big handicap to the railroad when the train is real long, especially since nowadays they don't have a conductor on the rear of the train riding on the caboose. They pay a big price sometimes for not having full train crews like they used to do. But my job with the railroad was to go out and repair cars that got set out on the main line. Quite often I've repaired many a car out on the side of the road, and that's what I'll talk about a little bit today in the vlog, repairing cars. I'd do a little bit of adding to a blog I was working on. One of my viewers made a comment about bad older cars being set out along the route right away about bad older cars being set out of trains in various places. As railway carman, many a time I had to go repair those cars that are set out. The railroad does indeed occasionally have to stop a car and take it out of the train. Many various reasons might be why they stop the train. Sometimes they can go down there and correct the problem themselves. Some problems a regular trainman can't fix. He doesn't have the tools or equipment or the know-how. But a lot of times they can just go back there and say if it's a wound up handbrake sticking or something, they can release the handbrake. They can cut the air out on the car and bleed all the air out of the reservoir and take it on to its way if it's an air brake problem. But there's lots of things that can go wrong on a car. I thought there's hundreds of things that I've repaired on rail cars, but I could name a few reasons why I would go to work on a rail car out beside the main line somewhere, and many a time I did. I made a couple little notes here. A lot of times you'll hear the term on the railroad, train got a hot box. Well, what that means is railroads used to have friction-bearing wheels, and the journal box, which is a box that had a big lubricating pad in it, and oil would oil the bottom of the journal on the axle. It had big old bearings in there lined with babbitt. Babbitt is a type of lid, and that would sit and rest the weight of the car on the top of the journal. It's just the same thing. A lot of bearings are made out of babbitt, but it's just a great big one. So a hot box, a lot of times them old journal boxes would get scratched or pitted or defective, and when the journal starts running hot, it'll get hotter and hotter and hotter, especially if it's melting that babbitt off the brass. The term brass is the unit that the babbitt is attached to. It's a big old brass dewflunker. Anyway, if it's low on oil, doesn't have any oil, or it's overheating from being defective, a lot of times those journal boxes would catch on fire, literally burst into flames. And then the train would look back there sometimes and see it and stop it and set the car out on the main line. We quit using friction bearings here just a few years ago, but I've had to repair quite a few of them. But the term hot box stayed with the railroad. They don't have journal boxes anymore. They're all roller bearings. But even those will overheat, and melt the whole axle off. It can cause the train to wreck if something isn't done about it. And that does happen occasionally. But the term hot box is still used to this day. It's been a habit with the railroad. When a term railroad lingo gets out there, it stays forever. I won't linger too much on hot boxes, but one of the jobs I had to do quite often was go to a car that was set out for a hot box. And what we could do sometimes was take a journal jack. We had these manual and hydraulic journal jacks. Manual and hydraulic journal jacks that you could stick under the journal box and jack it up and take the weight off the bearing, reach up inside the journal box and pull the bearing out and check the condition of the top of the axle. Sometimes we would put a product in there called Coolox, which was kind of a melty, waxy, gunky looking stuff. We'd put that in there on top of the journal and stick the brass back in there where you could get the car to a different location if it's not too far away. And that was quite a detailed job doing that. But, thankfully we don't have to do that anymore, but a lot of times you had to go replace the wheels out on the line of road. More than one occasion, many occasions I should say, I've gone out and helped replace wheels, and replaced them myself when I was riding in the wheel truck. But this is a long drawn out process, might take you a half a day, but you pull up to a car that's sitting out there, you jack the car up on both sides, roll the wheels out from under it, take the crane on the back of your truck and disassemble the trucks, pull the truck sides off and the bolster off, lift it up and put the new wheels in there and reassemble the trucks and roll them back under the car and let it down. That was quite a drawn out process. But sometimes you'd go to repair a car that was set out on the main line. If you hear a chainsaw running over there, the power company's trimming trees or something over there. That's probably what I heard running the other day. Lost my train of thought. Anyway, the viewers that asked me about setting cars out, they definitely still do it. They have a truck assigned to big locations like Atlanta, we often called it a wheel truck or a road trip truck. But I had my own truck here in Griffin that I drove, and quite often they would ask me to go repair a car. I've been as far away as South Carolina repairing cars. So we got a car sitting up there and needs something done to it, go see what's wrong with it. You go up there and sometimes they never bother to tell you what's wrong with the car. They just know it's sitting out there, so you have to walk around that car and decide for yourself why it was set out. They're supposed to put a tag or a note on the car telling you what the problem was when they set it out, but quite often they don't do that. When I inspect a car and find something wrong with it, I have to fill out bad order tags, big orange tag, and stick on the side of it. Say, I find a car that needs a major repair, but it can get to a shop somewhere. I'll stick that orange tag on the side of the car and call a dispatcher or have the the local freight agent bill the car to a repair track somewhere. So you send that car to Macon or send that car to Atlanta. It needs new wheels, or it needs this, or it needs that. The repairs that you do on a car, I know this video is probably getting a little drawn out, and I'll add more to it in a future video, but the repairs you do on a car are billable, depending on what the repair is you have to do. Some repairs are handling line responsibility, some are owner's responsibility. And rail cars are owned by various private companies and railroad companies. So when a car goes to the shop, say they put a new pair of wheels in there, they measure the amount of wear that's gone off the wheel, and that determines how much they're going to pay for a new pair of wheels. A handling line defect would be something like, say, Norfolk Southern derailed a CSX car and it got all damaged and tore up. Well, CSX is going to have to pay a dime. The handling line is going to pay for those kind of repairs. But it was something like regular maintenance that's required by the Federal Railway Administration, like checking the air brakes, COTNS, clean oil testing, stencil brakes. Well, the owner is going to pay for those repairs. A lot of times I would have to go and inspect and repair cars that were found defective by the Federal Railway Administration. They have a habit of going to different places and checking the train. If they see some little major defect or minor defects, they'll tell the railroad, this has got to be repaired. These got to be fixed before you can send them anywhere. What do? They call Pwalpar. They get the truck and go to Toccoa or Gainesville or wherever it is. There's 27 cars up there they set up. See how many of them you can get fixed. Might be up there all day and all night and part of the next day. What are the little notes that I make? A lot of times when a car is set out, it's for defective dragging air hoses. Sometimes a trainman can take a wrench and go back there and swap the air hose out itself, but often on these low slung TTX cars and stuff, it takes a car repairman to replace some things. You gotta have a assortment of tools and know how to get it off. Regular trainman ain't gonna get them train line arrangements off. More than 1,000 occasions probably I had to go out and just repair a broke train line. How that broke train lines get broke, we'll cover that in today's video. A lot of times the trainman will be switching cars. Say he's got to go in an industry and pick up a car. Well, the couplers have to be lined up straight when you bump them together to make them couple up. Well, quite often the couplers will be a little crooked and they don't pay attention. They run into the other coupler instead of coupling to the other couple like this. It'll miss and go on the wrong side, and when it does, if it's a long chain coupler, it'll shove right up the side of the car and break off your angle cock and your train line pipe and everything else. So I might be out there 2 hours with a pipe threading machine and different 1.25 inch of pipe fittings and new angle crocks and a welder and putting a new bracket on there. Sometimes they knock the whole coupler carrier, or what we call a carry iron, out from under the coupler. When you do that, the coupler drops down. There's a good pool of things you got to repair that's easily damaged by a train crew not doing their job properly. You watch a person couple up with a train. If he's a good conductor, he's going to take his time and line those couplers up. Sometimes they're flat switching. Flat switching is where they just kick a car and let it roll down in the yard. And when it gets to where the other cars are parked, it'll couple up to the car and stop right there. They're bumping them into a whole cut of cars. But quite often they would mismatch couplers and tear up train lines and bang things up, but it saved them time flat switching. How many of my viewers have ever encountered the term a jerk one by? That's a flat switching term. We'll explain that sometime. How do you jerk a car by? Anyway, I said, oh, there was one more item I wanted to touch, but that would be another whole video. I was going to mention about a combination of dirt lictor and cutout cocks. About the one in Rockmart, Georgia, but that'll have to be in a different video. That would be more of a drawn-out story, and I've already talked too much. Anyway, I'm going to go change the battery in my camera. I hope you caught my video of my woodpecker yesterday. That was an awesome-looking woodpecker. I'll take care. It's Pwalpar going to sign off for today's vlog.